I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about an important subject. I know it's one that not many people, really, I don't know anyone who likes it or likes to talk about it, but it's important. And that's property taxes, right? So the auditor's office, our role with property taxes, which the bills are being sent here very shortly, and your property tax amounts and bills are available online on our website. Well, our role in the whole process is to do just this. It's to determine your market value as of a certain date, the value of your property, what we believe it can sell for as of that date, and then apply the tax rates that we, the voters, have passed over the years for all the different types of levies and different local government districts which your property taxes go to. And that's our role. That's what we do every year, and we determine your value, and we apply those tax rates. And I kind of want to explain, when someone calls our office, which they have quite a bit, and I always encourage it. I always love when people do that, reach out to us and ask those questions, because that's really the only way that we can share the information, and we encourage you to do so if you've got questions. But when someone calls our office and they say, hey, I think my taxes are too high, I don't think that I should be paying these, or I think that increase from my taxes is just not fair, it's not right. Well, when I answer the phone, and I try and answer as many phone calls as our office gets, I kind of will smile and I'll say, if you have a few minutes, let me explain some different things. And the first thing that I ask them is, first, let's look at your property. Let's look at your value. That's what the state of Ohio, and many states are different. Some states are purely an income tax base, how they fund other different governments. Some states, it's purely a sales tax base, how they fund their different governments. Ohio is unique in that we're kind of a mix of everything, right? Largely, at the local level, it's property taxes. That's how we fund our governments here in Ohio. Our schools, our townships, cities, different county entities, first responders, police, fire. That's by and large how we fund them. At the county level, we get other funding from different sources, largely sales tax. At the city and village level, there's an income tax traditionally assessed on different people, which also help to fund. And then at the school level, there's one school here in Ashtabula County, Geneva area city schools, which has an income tax. But otherwise, your townships and your schools and different entities are largely funded through property taxes, what our office, the auditor's office, kind of has a role in, a large role in. So I give a little bit of background about that. And then I ask, the state of Ohio essentially tells us this. The auditor's office, every 6 years, will look at property values. We'll essentially say, as of a certain date, in our case right now, it's January 1st of 2020, your property, what is the value of your property if you were to put it on the market? And we take that value and we look at the entire district. And we say, well, what's the district's value? What are the changes? We go out and we look at every single property, all 80,000 or so. We take a look at market sales, we take a look at condition, a whole bunch of different variables. We calculate all that information down together, and we determine what your value is. Now, that's the question I always ask. Is the value that we've determined, is that what you think you could sell it on the market for? Now, in some cases, the person will say, oh, I have no idea. I don't know what I would sell my property for. In that case, we kind of look back and we'll look at what they bought the property for. We might look at what are some of the surrounding neighborhoods. Sometimes the person will say, oh, I think that's way too high. I think that value, I could never get the price that your office says that I could get. And in some cases, the person will say, and this actually happens more than what you'd think, the person will say, oh, that might actually be just right, or that might even be a little bit low. I bought the property a couple years ago for this amount, and you've got me below that. Or inversely, sometimes they say, hey, I bought the property a couple years ago and you got me way above that. So first we determine, is the value correct? The value is correct. If they think that that's what the fair market value is, well then I say, if you still think you're paying too much in taxes, let's look at the different tax credits that you might be available to get. And that's things like the homestead for our senior citizens or disabled residents, things like owner occupancy for residential property owners who live in their home and they own it, and things like CAUV for our farming community or those who own over 10 acres of woodland, which is a great opportunity for people to save too. Those are three kind of the tax credits that we're able to provide. Outside of that, unfortunately I tell them, it's really a matter of all the different tax levies that are on their tax bill that have been passed by the voters. And on our website, I will point them to the tax distribution list where they can see exactly every levy, every cent of their tax bill and where it goes. And that's really determinant, decided by the voters, by all the folks who live in that district in our democratic process. Now, if they say that no, the value is not correct, and I think my taxes are still too high, well, we can't really change your taxes. That's not something our office can do outside of those three credits. What we can do is we can make sure that your value is correct, that we've got the best information possible. And in this case, I would point them, well, hey, there's something called the Board of Revision. It's a process, it's a legal process, where you can actually test your market value. What other tax can you actually have a say in? Can you actually help, help in that process and even challenge? So you can say that auditor's office, your value's way off. I think that I can never get that for the property, and I want to challenge it. And we'll walk you through that process happily. Last year, we had just over 100 people out of 80,000 parcels. We had just over 100 people say, I think the value is incorrect. In our last revaluation, prior to my time in office, we had nearly 1,000. So it runs the whole different amount in terms of how many people will do that process. We've made many changes this year to make it more streamlined, more straightforward, including even just during the revaluation, sending out postcards, having our online portal, doing our best. And of course, there's always things that we miss, there's always mistakes that we make. But doing our best to get the best information and work with you, the property owner, the resident, the taxpayer, as easy as we can. And so we'll walk them through that process, the Board of Revision. And that's really kind of the different questions that we can share with them. Now, I know there's many different other information, and we've got some great videos, some great kind of step-by-steps on our website about how property taxes are determined, how it's a portion of your property's value and the district's value, how there are some levies that when you vote on them, they may say 8 mills, for example. A mill, of course, is $1 per $1,000 of value on your property. That's what you're taxed. It may say 8 mills, but really, actually, it only charges you 3 or 4 mills. And that's because of different value changes, new people moving in, people helping to share the pot. And we're happy, I'm always happy, to help explain, to walk through with folks some information on their tax side, what we can kind of share. It's really complicated, and I'll be very straightforward with you. It literally took several days of our office to help do calculations in conjunction, with the state and determining your tax rates. But we can try and do our best to help walk you through, explain. But really, at the core of all this are two things. One, our office and what our role is, and that's the value side. That's making sure that we've got the right information, the right value on your property. That's how the state of Ohio, we the people, our state, has determined that property values, property taxes are local governments. That process, that's how it works, is a value-based property system. And the second thing is very important too, and that's, take a step back. And again, no one likes to pay taxes, right? No one likes to pay more to the government. I certainly don't. My tax bill was increased this past year, like many others here in our communities, because of levies, changes, and different things like that. But ask yourself, what are you getting for your money? And that's why I think our tax distribution page, information that we share out, is so important. And you can see what portion of your tax bill is going where. And then, what can you do with that information? Well, you can use it. Information is power, right? You can take that information and say, my portion of the tax bill, maybe 30%, goes to my local township or my village. How are they spending my money? And you can go to a meeting. You can call up your representative. You can ask, hey, what are you doing with our funds? It sparks conversations. And that's the best part of sharing information and of being open. And what local government's all about is knowing where those funds are going and having the conversations about what those tax dollars are being spent on. Things like roads and bridges, things like plowing, first responders, your local fire department, your EMS, your parks, different systems like that. And of course, schools and different essential services. At the county level, it's things like our mental health recovery services, children's services, our Board of Developmental Disabilities, and county government, the sheriff's department, the courts, the recorder's office, the clerk of court's office, our office, different essential services that we serve you with every day. And we can spark those conversations and talk about where those tax rates go and where your tax dollars go. And we're happy to do so. But it's good to have a nice foundation of what the role is, why those rates have been determined, why our office is even involved in this process, and what we can do to help. We're limited with what we're able to do. I feel for the people that call our office. I've spoken with many, and they may be on a fixed income, or they may be out of a job right now, especially due to the pandemic. And we'll do our best to work with anyone. But in terms of what we're able to do and what property taxes, what our role is in valuations, we can't be as flexible as perhaps other different forms of taxation can be, for example. But we'll do our best to work with anyone who has issues, concerns, point you in the right direction, and give you the information that you need. One of my promises, one of the things that I campaigned on, for example, is this. You may not like what I have to say. You may not like the results of something or different actions that our office takes. But one, you'll hear it from me. Two, you'll have it explained by me. And three, I'll always be happy to have the conversation about it. That's something that will never change, and something that's core, I think, to my belief and the belief of our staff here in the auditor's office. And again, ultimately, this is all because, at the end of the day, what are tax dollars? What's government dollars? It's your dollars. It's your money. And it's your trust that we want to make sure that we keep and we hold. So please, reach out to us. Never hesitate to contact. We'll be happy to help.